the cars are honking behind our tinted windows. We don't know who or what's in the car. There's nowhere we can go. The cars are coming on this side, on my driver's side, so I can't jump out. The back window of that tinted car window started to go down just a little bit. I'm just like, oh crap, they're gonna start shooting. In that moment of tumbling in the water, right between that, seeing the water in front of me to where I couldn't see the sun, and to just being in a body of water, not knowing where you're going in that big, dark ocean, that was like a level of fear. Been going through that same, Christ relationship, ups and downs ever since.
And welcome to another Cosmic Chat with our lovely guest, Veronica A. Brown. She is a writer, actress, and a comedian in the Los Angeles area. But you are going to be surprised today about what is unfolded when she has some, shall we say, time-induced shocking events that not only involved a wave, potential car drive-by shooting, but she goes inwards and having these seemingly supernatural experiences which change her soul and her connection to her God. So how would you describe the taste of a banana to someone who's never eaten one?
How's the taste of a banana? That's interesting. Okay. It's very suggestive. I'm sorry. When it comes to, a taste of a banana, something soft, definitely say soft, something that's a bit sweet. And it's more of if I were to, it's hard to compare something to a banana, but very like soft, sweet, savory type of fruit. Something you have to peel first before you eat it. So if you don't know what a banana is, you might want to do that first. And and then from there, you just take a bite of it. It's I would say it's kind of like, it dissolves like baby food. It's soft to where it's almost close to baby food when you're done chewing on it. It's really good.
I wonder that's why everyone has one, so they mush it up. Like, for baby food, it's a real simple go-to.
What is a
when someone's young, like, most people had a banana, and I wonder if that's part of it, because like we can mush it up really easily.
Well, that does make sense. It's like you want to make a puree out of it. If you really want to make it soft. But yeah, that's how I would describe a banana to someone who's never had one before.
So let me get into a little bit of Veronica's World. Was there a moment in your childhood you remember almost having a out of body experience, or looking around thinking, hang on, what is going on here, that caused you to change your perception of life?
Let's see. It can't be adulthood, can it?
Well, if that's the first one that you have, absolutely.
Okay. Well, I remember I did for the first time. I got scared to a level of which everything went in slow motion. I've heard of this happening to people. I never believed it. I'm like, what do you mean things go in slow motion? Like, what are you watching a movie? It's literally like your heart's going so fast, like you're all, your nerves and everything just kind of like slows down like this. Because what happened was I was going to a concert, and it was a part of a city, a little sketchy or whatever. And I was a driver. This was in my 20s. And we were getting off the freeway. And as we were getting off the freeway, this car, as we're going on off ramp, just went by us like this close. We're like, whoa, like, oh, thank God, missed us, right? Didn't think anything of it. So they go down to the light at the end of the, to get on the residential street. They stop, and we're like cars behind them, like, why aren't they moving? So comes to find out, they were trying to wait for us in the car, like we did something. So I'm like, okay, the cars are honking behind them, like, go. So we go, and we're driving, and they're slowing down so they can catch up to us. We're behind. So we're like, okay, I'm in a city I've never been before. So I'm like, I think they're following us. So, and they get right behind us and follow us for like good 3-4 blocks. I'm like, okay, they are really behind us. My friends in the back freaking out, like, oh my God. I'm just like, girl, calm down. I'm the driver. I don't need you to mess up my nerves right now. Let's just turn wherever there's lights and people. So we get on a busy section street. So I'm trying to shake this car. Now the car are tinted windows. We don't know who or what's in the car. There's like so black. Those are the kind of cars you do when you want to do a drive-by. That's the kind of car look like. And so I'm like, okay, crap. So getting towards the end of the story, we end up at a red light. I'm like, okay, maybe there's enough cars around us for them to block, not for them to get next to us. But of course, the one spot that is left open is for them to get right next to us. I'm like, God. And I'm like, there's nowhere we can go. The cars are coming on this side, on my driver's side, so I can't jump out. And so I'm like, the back window of that tinted car window started to go down just a little bit. I'm just like, oh crap, they're gonna start shooting. So there's two of my friends in the car. They're on the side that's closest to that crazy car. I'm in the driver's seat. I'm looking around and everything was going so slow. I'm just like, what? And that's how scared I was. And so I'm like, I waited for the cars to stop slowing down on my side. I opened my car door and it's about to jump out. And so my other girlfriends are like, gonna duck in the seat. And next thing I know, as the window rolled down, I hear pow on my car door. And I was just like, oh, snap. And the car just whizzed off like a crazy person. I'm like, what they threw a glass bottle at my car. I'm like, and then they drove off like they were scared of us retaliating. I'm like, what the heck just happened that scared the death out of me? I think it was just some drunk women with that was more of a woman thing that would throw a bottle. You never know. But yeah, that was an outer body experience where everything was in slow motion, where I couldn't do anything. I couldn't help my friends. Everybody's out for themselves. Like, try to avoid to get shot. That's all I could feel. And everything was in slow motion. So yeah, that was the time.
And as a result of that happening, did you change your perception or did things alter within you?
Well, let's see. I tried to think of ways that I maybe would have handled it differently, or anything similar in the future. It didn't really change. I just know that you can be scared into another dimension. I never felt that. And I never really believed it until I felt it. And I'm like, I know exactly what you're talking about. So it did change my perception of various levels of fear. Like when you're near death or you're near something and you don't have control over your nerves. It's just out of your body at this point. And that changed my perception of how you can feel that scared in a moment. And I never felt that before.
Yeah, the fight or flight response absolutely takes over. And I was almost in one car accident when everything got really slow.
Oh, man.
And having that experience of time appearing to change in front of you, exactly the word you said, different dimension.
Yeah.
Almost in a different dimension, time and space. If we get into the philosophy of the planets, and when you go further and you go through the various there's light speed, the speed of sound, how things change. Absolutely, that one doesn't think that in this world as an individual until we have that experience. Did you have any other experiences in your life that you had not really recognized at a deeper level that you were the effect of something until it occurred?
A lot of it does tie into fear, but I guess there's two things. Let me talk about the first one is the fear. The second one is more of a positive spiritual, but that's cool. The first one, I was a child this time. And it was one of those things where you just surrender to the moment and realize this might be it. I was about 7 and this was summer camp and we were at the beach. So all the kids in the ocean, sometimes you have these big sand hills that you won't know that you're there until you stand on it. So you're kind of like above the water. And so I see all these kids there and I'm like, I want to go to the sand hill. So I run deeper and deeper into the ocean. You know, I don't think I could really swim yet either. I just knew it was like kind of like up to here. I'm like,
And
okay,
how old
I can
were
still
you?
make it. 7.
7, you said that. Thank you.
Yeah, like, yeah, 7, 8 years old, somewhere around there. And I'm like, okay, cool. I could just walk, and I could like kind of doggy paddle. I was like this much of a swimmer. So I finally get there. I come out of the water. I look around. There are no kids. I look around back to the shore. All the kids are running back there. I'm like, I'm staying here. It took me forever to get here. I'm staying by myself. So I turn back around and I see why they were running off. There was this huge wave where I couldn't even see the sun.
And this was, where was this?
This was in Santa Monica. This was in Santa Monica. We were at the beach, and when I turned around, all I saw was dark green liquid, just all ocean. And I'm just, what are you gonna do? Just take it. So I took that hit. I've never been hit so hard with a body of water in my life, to where I couldn't feel, I'm tumbling in water and I can't feel the ground. I don't know which direction. Is it pulling me in, or is it pushing me back on shore? I don't know. I just thought like, okay, well, I'm just gonna ride this roller coaster and see where it goes, because it might lead to death. But thankfully I didn't die. As you can see, it pushed me, knocked me back onto the shore, like way back to where the water didn't even touch. I mean, it knocked me that far back. And I was like on the shore, like, oh my God. So I just backed up. It was like, okay, I'm not going to that again. And in that moment of tumbling in the water, right between that, seeing the water in front of me to where I couldn't see the sun, and to just being in a body of water, not knowing where you're going in that big, dark ocean, that I was just like, that was like a level of fear also. And that was an out of body experience where you just, I guess, an acceptance of fear, but it's also an acceptance of, I don't have control. God's gonna have to save me, because I can't do anything. I can't fight the ocean.
Powerlessness.
So yeah, that's one. Another one is a positive one, is where I started, I've always been technically a Christian in title because I was in my family, but it took me a minute to really understand a relationship with God outside of religion and the Christianity part. It's still following Christ in his ways. And I never really understood like the level of the Holy Spirit that they kept talking about. I always thought it was freaking weird. I'm like, okay, like people will be around me. I'll be in church just, I never really liked going to church at first, until like I started doing Bible study and then getting to know Christ, to then be like, okay, I can get down with this Christian thing. And then what it did, without me paying attention, after I started understanding, knowing how to read the Bible and what it means, reading between the lines, I'm like, oh, and I wasn't really, you don't have to be a theologian at all. Like you just start getting it and the words speak to you, and you start changing your ways in life and wanting to be, not as secular. I mean, you still have your personality, of course, but it really gave me a level of peace and joy and contentment that I never felt. And I couldn't tell you, nothing had to happen for me to feel that, but I was consistently feeling that. And that is something that I felt in like my 20s. I'd say I felt that in my 20s, and I've been going through that same, Christ relationship, ups and downs ever since. So yeah.
But what was the moment that had that perception shift?
The thing is, that moment, you don't really recognize that one moment. You just feel it over time, and you don't know when it happened. You just know it's been happening and it's consistent. I'm like, wow, my day to day is different. My spirit's lifted differently. It's something, you're reliant spiritually on something bigger than yourself. That's, supernatural. So that's where I was like, wow, it's not a deity in you. It's really the supernatural that's within you and who you have a relationship with. And that's something that you carry around with you all the time. And it didn't really permeate until, I think maybe after a few weeks or whatever. And then you realize it, like, oh, wow, things that used to bother me don't bother me as much. I don't.
So you would say you were, just to recap, you were doing a series of Bible study sessions over how much time was that?
The Bible, I think a few weeks I did Bible study, and I did with other people and people who met me where I was, and I could be myself. And I'm like, oh, okay, so this is like if I were to chill out with Christ himself, I could be myself. And how
old were you at this point?
I was 24 at the time. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so you'd had that experience of the knowledge, but nothing internal that opened up. Let me ask you another question. When you had that experience with the wave and water, and afterwards, and you got over the shock, was there any kind of euphoric experience for life?
For life, did that?
Because you survived.
I did survive. I didn't. Well, my dad told me something, that I used to be scared of the water, but he was like, I don't know where it came from, but I was like, that was when I was younger. So, I mean, I can swim now. I don't go as deep into the ocean, unless it's like super clear and we're Hawaii or something, and it's still, it's kind of like that. But it didn't. I'm sorry, what was the question? I drifted off.
That's all right. After you were on the beach and got over the shock of what happened, did you find there was a reconnectivity to life?
Right after that moment, it's hard to get that deep at 7. You just know that you're not going
to. But reflecting back with your current consciousness of maybe your behavior afterwards.
Oh, my behavior afterwards. Well, honestly, it was a moment. It honestly didn't really didn't shift anything in me. I still would go for things that were unknown, that looked fun, that I wanted to do. I wasn't as apprehensive about life as I am now, being grown. I was still let's see what happens. And people were like, are you sure?
When you had the car incident, right, after you got over that initial shock and you were aware that, whoa, after that initial fear, did you also have an appreciation for life?
Oh, yeah. It definitely helps you my appreciation for life, it increases, but then you readapt.
Absolutely. It's got normalization. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, normalization. Like once you go through it, I think that maybe fed into more of my invincibility in my 20s than anything. I'm like, okay, I could have died in the ocean. I could have got shot. I didn't. So what else? It kind of like, well, I got through that. It just toughened my skin a little bit. I didn't live in fear. I didn't really want to go back to that city anytime soon. That's one thing. But it's still, I was like, I'm still going to go out. I'm still going to go to the club, and next time I'm going to just like ram their ass in my car. I'm just thinking I'm sorry. That's it. I'm sorry. Ram their butt, with my car if I could afford it.
But what's fascinating to me is you've brought up this world supernatural and this experience. There's a film, I think it's called Hereafter. It is Clint Eastwood film, and he does the same practice of meditation that I teach. And that experience that the people have who go through this water tsunami, right? There's something that happens with water, and a lot of religious ceremonies involve water, right? The cleansing of that, and having this tap into what seems almost supernatural, that time and space completely are transcendent with where you are, and the enormity of the vastness of the universe or supernatural entity comes in. Like, I'm completely powerless. I think I can, with this brain, do everything. And yet at any moment, I mean, nature will always trump. Nature shows us on a regular basis. Did we get the message? Did we get the message this time? I don't know. That your connectivity, with your perception shifts each time is this tapping into something that cannot be comprehended by the small brain, right? The small human brain. And, the word weird is basically something that the human perception cannot categorize. So we just call it weird, hence borderline the supernatural. And you're talking about now that you've come to your faith as an adult, from tapping into almost the supernatural experience, an experience beyond the normal capacity, and then having the intellectual validation of, oh, this happens over time. Oh, in life, I'm not at the effect of all these sort of trip wires and things, that something has my back, something is there, this consciousness, I'll call it, okay? And that, do you find that is very grounding for you when you start to maybe find yourself, and I'm going to assume because you're human, spinning a little bit?
Yeah, it's having that experience over time shows how, like you said, how small we are in this world. Like, you feel so small when you start to see a world that's so big, and even surpassing the natural and tapping into that. It's like, okay, the grounding of that, by grounding, you have a foundation, and you're not this, I would say, spiritual tumbleweed. You're just all over the place. Like, well, let me try this, let me try that. And that's okay when you're trying to, let's say, find yourself, find your foundation, spiritual foundation. And that's what keeps you grounded, because there are times where, just like any human experience, where you're just like, I don't know, I have nothing, I can't think of anything else. I've tried everything else. God, you're gonna have to take over from here. It's that I guess that, not luxury, but it's that gift to be able to be like, here, take this, handle it, because I can't. And you know I can't.
Surrender. You've articulated several times the true essence of surrender.
The true essence of it. And it's something I rely, looking back, when I'm like, okay, so your faith has brought you this far through much worse, and some things you don't know that are coming. So why would he or she, whatever your foundation is, for me is Christ, why would they just drop you now? It doesn't make sense. So
it's almost like you're articulating your experience with, I love it, surrendering to the supernatural, right? Like with your words, and that, and then almost feeling a little supernatural oneself, which can happen when connecting inwards, if we want to use the word divine, whatever anyone believes in. There's all this passageway to connect within. And unlike some meditation practices, we teach a technique that's not based in any belief whatsoever. In fact, I didn't believe it would work, because I tried so many that I just showed up and followed the instructions that the woman gave me, so determined it wouldn't work. And I was very poorly, that's an English word for not well, and couldn't sleep at night because of physical pain, but I would sleep every afternoon for 3 hours. And so I did the practice at home. And of course, I had an idea of what meditation is supposed to be. We all do. We all have these ideas about things. And my mind was full of thoughts, and it didn't seem restful. I wasn't suddenly, floating, or this change in personality. And afterwards, I thought, well, that was horrible. I don't want to sit for 20 minutes, gosh. So I lay down for my 3-hour nap thinking, thank goodness, now I can rest. And within, about 5 minutes, I sat up because my body just didn't need it. And then it still took an outside reflection, a person to say, I'm sorry, what? You just tried this on your own at home for the first time after learning it, and you don't have to sleep for 3 hours like you do normally because you can't sleep at night during the chronic pain. And until they said it, they were like, you have just got 2 hours, right? And 20 minutes back in waking state that you did not have before. And when they pointed that out to me, first of all, I knew I better go back to the next session to find out what the heck is this stuff, right? But beyond my conscious mind, something was going on physically that no chiropractor, no acupuncturist, no nutritionist, no, therapy group, whatever you want, all of the things I tried could tap into. That something was happening. And then as it continued, the circadian rhythms came back into normalcy, and the nutritionist didn't understand why my body was now absorbing the nutrients. Because what people don't realize, if someone has an illness, is you can get all the high grade food you want, but if the physiology cannot absorb it at a high level, it's defunct, right? And the biggest area where we cannot absorb, where we need to, of course, the digestion tract, is where we have most of our stress within the digestive tract, right? And so when people often have some kinds of antidepressants, also the serotonin is created in the gut as well. So from a physical point of view, nothing. And who would think meditation? It won't do that. But it comes under this word that people have these ideas. And if other people are curious about what exactly is this practice, the best way to know is there's a free ebook called Vedic Meditation Stories. The link is in the description. Hopefully it's popping up now. If you have Amazon Unlimited, it's free, and you can share it with people as well. If not, it's a small donation and it just goes to the nonprofit. But it's the only publication right now, as this is being recorded, that has true unedited stories from people who learned, who normally would not do meditation, like myself. And they're very powerful because we want people to have a practice that helps the nervous system get back on track. And you don't have to believe in it at all. You simply do it. And then as a result, people have found, and we have some beautiful videos already, Holly Logan has a lovely video she had about how, meditations help her get closer to Christ, closer to her faith. Right, then people have these ideas you can't do it because it is infringing upon your belief. Well, that's if you believe it. Right? And who went away, and meditated for a period of time, right? The philosopher himself, and we don't have that philosopher's direct words of what they did, but I can guarantee you it probably wasn't thinking about himself, and what he needs, in the material world. I need to I need to meditate on getting a house. Probably not what was going on that person's. Or maybe I need to find the perfect soulmate. That was not what was happening there. Right? That was not part of that person's message at all. So if you've enjoyed our little chat and a wonderful supernatural experience today with Veronica, please just like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. And you can reach out to us if you have any questions. And with that, I hate to wrap it up because I want to have Veronica back. We'll say thank you for joining us on this cosmic chat.
Thank you for having me, Paula.
Very, very welcome.